day 4,378 of the Pokemon community being the worst, because you're not allowed to say that the shinies in Pokemon Legends ZA are of lower value than the shinies that people actually work to get. So seeing a lot of discourse about shiny hunting again, and I just want to say how a shiny is found does not matter. Full odds, charm, AFK, who cares? If your immediate thought is your shiny is less rare than mine, I think you should try to be a nicer person and let people be happy. Except, if a shiny is less rare, it is of less value, especially in the extreme example of Pokemon Legends ZA, where you can AFK shiny hunt most of the decks. So everything that is like benchable or can be walked in and out of or whatever is now just not worth as much as a shiny forever because you can get boxes without any effort. A shiny Pokemon is supposed to be a representation of your hard work and dedication to get something that is rare. Rare equals value. That shinies are supposed to be rare, but we've lost this, and now tourists, these fake fans, the losers that don't respect or understand Pokemon, that think Pokemon Legends ZA is a good game, or Pokemon Legends is a good series, they just want to come in and be like, oh yeah, I didn't have full odds, or we didn't have to do any of the hard stuff to get shinies. But it's just the same. It's the exact same. This right here is an objectively more toxic and harmful statement than stating the fact of someone shiny having more value than someone else's shiny. Because it goes back through all the shiny hunts and all the weird and rare ways of getting Pokemon and the things you have to do. It doesn't even have to be as extreme as like, oh, I got this with the Pokéradar back in Generation 4. That was real shiny hunting. I mean, by comparison, Masuda shiny hunting in Generation 7 still took a really long time. Now, all you have to do is go to sleep with a turbo controller, and then you wake up to a shiny Riolu, instead of spending a week hatching 1,000 eggs, or maybe even more if you get unlucky, to get a shiny Riolu in Generation 7. So no, you're not being a nicer person by diminishing the hard work that others put in for an objectively more valuable thing, or even a Pokemon outside of the ZA decks, because now, Pokemon Legends ZA, like, you see a shiny Lucario, you see a shiny anything in that, especially whatever's in Wild Zone 3, it's like, oh, that is the freest. That's like a common Pokemon now. There is nothing to that Pokemon's rarity, but we've lost the plot on what a shiny is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be free. Again, it's a representation to your dedication of the game and your knowledge of deep game mechanics to make it bearable, or at least able to show your commitment to going for something that is rare and more valuable. And technically, shiny Pokemon do give a strong competitive advantage, especially in previous generations, because that shiny animation with the very limited and unforgiving timer in VGC actually wins you games. Wolf Glick literally admitted to this with his shiny team of perfect legendary Pokemon in Generation 5, when it was actually against the rules to timer stall, that any mid-game effects such as selecting a move or retreating Pokemon are to take place in a reasonable amount of time. So it actually used the TCG rules for VGC that you cannot slow play because the timer was just not built for VGC and it got exploited. And then Wolf did a write-up where he said, oh yeah, this team is shiny because it buys you more time on the shiny animation, and it literally won him a game. So it really proves Wolf Glick does not have the skill to win without cheated Pokemon, and he would be nothing without his illegal shiny legendaries that are humanly impossible to obtain, that no legitimate player can ever have. So just an objective advantage on the stats as well, then breaking the rules in multiple ways. It's kind of weird. So yeah, just kind of like showing the difference of shinies. But then this is also where, like, we get into the argument of shinies have technically always been worthless because 99.9% of them are hacked. We have non-stop hacked shiny wonder trades. You watch any VGC tournament. Oh, what's that? The finals? Oh, shiny legendary Pokemon. Also, RNG manipulation has been 100% confirmed to be cheating by Pokemon Company support, which is obvious if you read the rules. It is unauthorized external software. It doesn't, that, like they say, the use of external devices, such as an app, to modify or create items or Pokemon player's battle team is expressly forbidden. It doesn't say, oh, you can't use PK Hex. It covers all unauthorized programs, and that's what Pokemon Company support. They said, like, no, it breaks the TOS to use any RNG manipulation tools because they cannot exist without hacking the game. It is not a clock. You cannot create an RNG manipulation program without hacking the game to reverse engineer the game's functions. So, like, yeah, we're talking about Nintendo and Pokemon. So, of course, that breaks TOS, and actually breaks TOS in multiple ways. Like, this is as clear-cut as it gets, but people can't cope, and they also can't cope with the fact that WolfClick has cheated for well over a decade at this point, and just lives an entire career and an entire life of lying, cheating, and stealing. So the shiny value argument has always been weird, since shinies have always been worthless because of the prevalence of hacking programs, but even goes back to like the Game Shark and stuff, that if you actually dedicate time to shiny hunting, you are wasting your time for no reason. Like, cool, you have a legal shiny Pokemon, but in the time it took to get that, thousands of that Pokemon have been made and distributed. And hacking is so prevalent in Pokemon that like over 90% of teams without shiny Pokemon are hacked anyways. So the numbers just get smaller and smaller, and then people get like super mad at me when back in Generation 6, where it's like, oh, full team of shiny, perfect, competitive Pokemon Generation 6. Yeah, those are only hacked. And then people get mad at me even though it's the cheaters that are devaluing the shiny Pokemon and not me. And now even the value of legal shinies has been diluted into nothing. That it used to be something like, oh, a shiny is so far away and special, and if you get like one or two, then that's a really big deal. Also, we're talking about like a time before bottle caps. And even with bottle caps, getting a Pokemon at level 100 in Pokemon Sun and Moon was super duper annoying as well. So yeah, it never passed the eye test. Again, like 99.99% of full shiny teams are hacked, of course. But now people are coming in with their shiny Pokemon and trying to treat it as the same value it was before they became super common. It's like buying a pre-made starter deck and saying like, yeah, it's no different than me pulling this super duper rare card from a pack, or having a proxy card and saying like, oh, it is literally the exact same thing. No. It's not, and you're being toxic by trying to support that, where it's like, how dare you make that other person feel bad? No, how dare you cater to the brat that wants to be treated equal for doing less work than others? So I've hunted full odds and with charm in all the games, but I hunt for myself, not to gloat to others about it, even though this entire person's branding is shiny. That, like, if you call yourself a shiny hunter, and especially if you make your thing about being a shiny hunter, that is your humble brag right there. That is your gloating inside your thing. You haven't quietly just kind of hunted and then jumped in as being like, yeah, I've got some shiny Pokemon, but everyone's shinies are valuable. No, you're already at the top, so now it's just grifting. Like, that's also kind of the crazy thing. It's like, shinies have become so worthless that even shiny hunters grift to devalue shinies to pander to the brats because they don't care about anyone in the community except for themselves and their own attention and greed. We saw this with A-Drive. A-Drive doesn't give a shit about his audience because he hacked Pokemon for leagues. So, like, you're the shiny king, or you dedicate like your entire thing to shiny hunting, you create a huge movement to get people into shiny hunting as well, and then you just hack the game anyways to devalue all the work that these people that looked up to you put into the game. It's no different here. Again, it's just so crazy on the grift. Many folks these days equate a rare shiny with a more internet clout, and that's why it's gotten so gross. And now you're farming clout in this opposite way by devaluing other shinies to pander to the lowest common denominator. Hunt for yourself, and if it blows up, then that's great. Oh, see, but he knows he also gets attention off of these things. So, oh, I just post my shinies, and look at that, they went viral, but it's not going to blow up unless you embellish it. Unless you actually apply that rarity to it, or that 8,000 resets to get one of these. No one else has done it before. So many real issues happen. Oh, and of course, the deflection. So many real issues happening in the world, and this discourse is beyond insignificant. Yet here you are contributing to that, and then being toxic and putting others down in this world. I replied, and that's why I'm blocked. I agreed until rarity was invoked. Shinies have different values. A shiny AFK Litleo is objectively worth less than something hunted. And like, that's just a fact. And I don't understand why facts offend the Pokemon community and then also just make people get deranged and toxic. I already didn't care for your opinion. Again, I'm stating a fact. It is less value. That shiny has less value. Everything in Wild Zone 3, no one, like, there's also a shiny economy. That if someone says, like, oh, trade shiny for shiny, that way, you know, maybe you got some extras, or you got a shiny you don't want, and I have a shiny I don't want, maybe it is something we each want or something. Now, no, like, everyone knows, like, oh, wait, you can just bench that one, or, oh, you can get that, or you teleport or Aegislash, so now shiny Honedge is also super duper worthless when it used to be a chase shiny. So yeah, it's not an opinion. I realize that's a horrible, like, oh, so you're trying all this toxic positivity stuff, and it's one of those things where toxic positivity feels like a fake term, or that it's another thing that's kind of getting diluted. That's really the only thing I can describe about how people have been acting in the Pokemon community about everything. It's okay to hate Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and be just malicious and nasty towards Game Freak, even though there's no validity to those arguments. But then there's just been turbo grifting of Pokemon Legends ZA to be as toxic positive as possible about that game. And it's like, yeah, the game has some problems, but it's the best Pokemon game ever. That's actually going to be tomorrow's video, not that one, this one, where, like, you know, the best 3D Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends ZA, is incredible if you like Pokemon. That's just, like, lies, grift, and, like, the worst of toxic positivity. You know, it's refreshing to bump into a person that praised and made a video about positivity for once. It's the same thing, like, well, it's the same kind of losers and weirdos as well that we see with Generation 5, where it's like, why does everyone hate Generation 5? Even though the online discourse and all the community stuff is overwhelmingly positive for Generation 5. So they can't handle any criticism of an objectively bad game like Pokemon Legends ZA, just from a game design and action element standpoint, let alone all the other problems and just the horrible story. And I've done videos breaking that down. So now it is like, oh yeah, it is just grifting. Like, these guys are saying, like, oh, it's just rage-baiting grifting to say it's bad. No, that's not how the truth works. It's actually by doing the opposite and being a contrarian for the attention to other losers that can't cope with reality. That's actually where the grifting is. So now we're seeing that again, and then again being toxic in response. Ew. Bro. The condescension has also gotten incredible online. It seems to tie in a lot with the toxic positivity. I actually care even less. Bye, Lamau. I do not care how anyone gets their shinies and don't pay attention to other people's stuff, but I do want to know why bother paying money for a turbo controller and macroing it to get whatever shiny you want with no effort or enjoyment when you could just gen it. Well, that's because that's legal, so now we're just getting into the stupidity of hacking and stuff. But now this guy's like, oh, enjoyment's just subjective. So, if you turbo AFK and you find value, it is exactly the same as anything else. And that's what a lot of discourse has been about. Shinies are a very funny concept because they offer literally nothing whatsoever, except they do give a competitive advantage. Yet people get mad when you farm them. And then we have Hoodlum Scrafty, which is another, like, turbo grift that I've seen around Pokemon Legends ZA. This is the only way he gets attention now, it seems. So he just has to be fake. But he's always been fake, and we've covered that from when he did his video about me being a problem in the Pokemon community. It always circles back to every other PokeTuber being a greedy bad actor that doesn't care how much they harm the integrity of the community or disrespect Pokemon. So yeah, Legends ZA has made shiny Pokemon lose their value. Yeah, man, sure it did. So talking about, like, other shiny stuff, I don't know what these are, unless that's something that happened with a Pokemon Go event. I mean, Fluttermane does have no value as a shiny because of how you can, like, Giga Turbo spawn it and then just instantly get a shiny or instantly get a box of shinies. And then we just see, like, yep, Pokemon community is over 90% losers. Wow, it sucks that we've gotten to this point. It's so funny because the value of a shiny Pokemon depends on the person. How you got it doesn't matter. These brats I've been talking about, it's also really weird because, like, again, it's the right concept for the wrong idea, because, like, oh, all these people that support cheating, such as Hoodlum Scrafty, and I'd imagine almost everyone in all the comment threads about this, even though they're defending their shiny Pokemon, that one guy, why don't you just gen it in anyways? Like, that's no problem. Or the person that gets a clearly hacked shiny off the Wonder Trade and then just gets married to it. They did not put any work or effort into it, but then they just have to attach themselves to this objectively worthless thing because it is an illegal hack that can be spawned in by the thousands that shouldn't even exist to begin with. But now they're pro-genning because they received a hacked Pokemon from someone else on the Wonder Trade. It's just really weird. And even then, I don't say how you got it doesn't matter, because a legitimately hunted shiny Pokemon is infinitely more valuable than a hacked Pokemon. But the reason why I say, like, it's worthless is because, again, in that time, your work has been undermined to the point where, like, you could have just genned it and lied, and PK Hex is so good that it changes nothing. So it is this phenomenon of losers that cannot create anything of value for themselves or accomplish anything in their lives, defending worthless things and then not being able to respect the rarity and effort of things other people have worked for. And then we can just really see how horrible of a person Callum has become if this is his take from Legend ZA, just completely trivializing shiny hunting. Honestly, the value of a shiny is always up to your interpretation. That is just false. Again, there's hunts, there's difficulty, there's other Pokemon that are harder to obtain and will take longer to get on average and take more work to get. There is no interpretation there. A shiny legendary Pokemon you soft resetted for can never be equated to a shiny Skiddo or Litleo. It wasn't even that way before, so like now we're at kind of the extreme interpretation, because I think a lot of like people have gotten upset with their shinies being devalued as well, because Pokemon Scarlet and Violet also super trivialized shiny hunting even before the outbreak events, where it's just like actually natural outbreaks are still really easy to get shinies, and now we have the outbreak events where like 10 minutes and you get a shiny, and you don't even and you just barely have to do any kind of work. And these brats and fake Pokemon fans, they come in, they do the thing that takes no effort, has no tech behind it, or any kind of skill behind it, is inflated to be deliberately easier because Game Freak has just dumbed down the game that much in every regard, and they're like, my thing is worth as much as yours. So, like, people have already, like, that's already been sketchy territory, but now this kind of, like, takes it to an extreme. If the guaranteed Lake of Rage Gyarados means something to you, then who is to say otherwise? Well, I mean, that's kind of a weird one now, because, like, getting it and then transferring it takes more work than getting any shiny in Pokemon Legends ZA, or any of, like, the resettable ones. So it actually does have more value. But even at the time, like, the weird thing, when I first read this, I was like, wait a second, when was the last time I saw, like, a shiny Gyarados in competitive? And there was even, like, the shiny Magikarp event for Pokemon Sword and Shield on the raid battles, and, like, that was a really easy shiny to get. And a lot of the raid shinies have been kind of devalued, but that's also weird because, like, using a bot to get the shiny seed, it is impossible to get a shiny Sword and Shield raid den seed without the use of hacking tools. So those are also just hacked and cheated anyways, and if you join one of those, yes, that is a illegal shiny, if not just completely worthless, even if, like, you join someone that legitimately stumbled into a shiny raid or something. And then the, again, raid events like that Magikarp. So I'm like, yeah, I think you see very few shiny Gyarados, because everyone knows it's like, yeah, if I do this, it's free. If everyone has a shiny Gyarados, then it is worth less than the shinies that less and less people have that take more and more work to get. My favorite shiny I own is an Alolan Marowak and a Master Ball, because it wouldn't stay in a regular ball. The ball doesn't change anything. Like, you actually still got it. I caught it as a Cubone. I was doing a SOS hunt, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I regretted using the Master Ball, but later realized how perfect it looked on a Alolan Marowak. Like, that, like, okay, yeah, you can still have regret, and when you get down to that detail, it's like, yeah, a Pokeball Cubone is going to be, especially because of, like, the riskiness of SOS or however that can go wrong, or a Beast Ball non-Ultra Beast Pokemon is going to have more value. But when you get to that, like, that's more the flex of something that was already crazy to get. Like, you see a shiny Alolan Marowak or any shiny SOS Pokemon back in Generation 7, you're like, dang, if that's not PK Hex, they worked for it, cool. And if you only have, like, one shiny on your team, that is more impressive than having a full team of shinies, because again, you just look at that and go, oh, that dude cheated. Not to mention, its nickname is Red Rum, which is probably my favorite nickname for a Pokemon ever. Whatever that means. And also, like, yeah, the Master Ball is pretty sick, and you only get one, so if, like, you choose to use your Master Ball in a Pokemon, that's a flex in itself. This is this person's, like, favorite Pokemon, or they really worked for it. So Master Ball, on sentiment, can beat out a rarer or harder ball as well, and that is something that can have tangible and interpretive value. Still beats whatever bullshit people are trying to say about every shiny's equal and you're not allowed to talk down anyone else's value just because you worked harder for it. So neither of these Pokemon are particularly rarer than anything in ZA, and there's a story I have to associate with them. So also getting shiny Xurkitree. I mean, shiny Ultra Beast. Again, like, farming Ultra Beasts or farming these more rare Pokemon just in general in the scope of the game means something. I mean, you could argue they've been losing their value every time they had a new method since Black White 2. It's dumb. Okay, but they have. However, we also hit the point where, like, yeah, shiny hunting wasn't really a thing until Justin Flynn in Generation 6. So that's kind of where I put, like, X and Y is the shelf of shiny hunting. And even back then, shinies were rare and very valuable. Oh, dude, I'm trying to think about it, because, like, before Pokemon Home, or Pokemon Bank happened, and then all the hacking tools for X and Y happened, like, Generation 6, before it got cracked and broken, was actually pure and amazing, and that's when I beat the second-ranked player and got top 20 on the Battle Stadium, proving I am actually, like, the best player in the world without hacking, or at least one of them. It was all Japanese players above me, so... best North American player at the very least, especially when disqualified cheaters like Wolf and every other top VGC player currently. Especially back then when it was all hacked Generation 5 legendaries or just hacked Generation 6 Pokemon and stuff. Which also brings another weird point about hacked Pokemon and shiny value, because if you used a hacked Ditto, the offspring is illegal, once again confirmed by the Pokemon Company, because no hacking is supposed to interact or exist in your game in any way whatsoever. So even if you put in the work and dozens of hours to get a Masuda shiny Pokemon, if it was with a hacked Ditto, it is a worthless, illegal shiny. It is objectively an illegitimate Pokemon, and then again, going into like shiny Pokemon and competitive, like back then, you had to get the nature, you had to get the IVs, so if it was perfect competitive shiny, even with a Masuda method, it was going to be off of a hacked Ditto to have like the perfect IVs for that. So even though we're talking about, oh, but after Pokemon Black and White 2, it doesn't matter because shinies are so much easier to get now. Like, no, there were virtually zero. Like, maybe a couple people got super duper lucky just by the law of very large numbers and stuff, or being overly dedicated. And I know that a 6IV Ditto isn't the only way of getting perfectly bred Pokemon, especially shiny and stuff, that the Friend Safari already, like, encouraged trading and interacting with others, but this was early days X and Y. The Pokemon community was not sophisticated enough, and then immediately, like, turned to cheating with Pokemon Bank and whenever Pika Hex became available. So people weren't chain breeding for 6IV male egg group Pokemon off of the guaranteed IVs off of the Friend Safari and then trading them off so you had like Masuda species and stuff and then getting a perfect competitive shiny Pokemon that way. Like, I would guarantee less than 100 legitimate competitive shiny Pokemon hatched in the entirety of Pokemon X and Y, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually just a couple dozen. That is how exceptionally rare these things are. Because again, 99% of competitive Pokemon were just disqualified in Generation 6 for using a hacked Ditto, and then that means like 99.9% Masuda method, because that was the way everyone did it, would also be disqualified as well. And then again, the numbers just are not in your favor even more and more from there. And then like just again, weird things coming out of the Pokemon community where it's like, oh, so we're being toxic about how you can't put down anyone for how they get their shiny Pokemon, and now we're flaming balls? So this guy got his alpha shiny Garchomp in an Ultra Ball, but that's the wrong ball and still gets 20,000 likes. Like, when I saw this, it actually had like a good like ratio. Like 1% is the average like ratio on Twitter. So even then, like half of a percent is still up there. Like, this is agreed with. So the shiny hunting community that gets pissy and offended about how you get your shiny Pokemon will also get really pissy and offended that once you get the shiny in front of you, if you actually don't get it in the proper ball or treat it properly, then you get flamed as well. And I was like, wait, is this person serious? Is the community serious to actually be upset about the ball? Yes, but also it seems like the response has gone the other way, where it got to the point where, like, initially everyone was upset about the ball, and then a lot of people jumped in realizing how silly that is, so now the commentary is about the people that were upset, and then do got a lot of defense and stuff. But grievous error, not in a premier ball, because that's how you have to do every shiny. If it ain't a premier ball or it ain't a luxury ball, it doesn't count. And as we saw, like that initial post, like still tens of thousands of people agree with the sentiment. Because again, like the Pokemon community is innately toxic, while trying to deflect that onto the people just stating facts and being objective and rational about the state of the game or the situation that is being discussed and stuff. Yeah, and then just like, again, weird toxic positivity stuff. I'm 50 hours in, convinced that anyone who says Legend ZA is a cash grab with zero heart is a liar and a hater. No, it's just an actual real Pokemon fan that didn't jump in on Generation 5 and then disrespect the entire spirit of Pokemon before then. So toxic positivity grifting is so tiring. Keeping on the topic of shinies, because I didn't really see where else to put this. Like, there's been so much discourse around Pokemon Legends ZA. It's really weird, because one of the worst selling Pokemon games ever, when you take in the entire scope of the community. Also, it sold worse than Legends Arceus, and Legends Arceus is like the second worst selling 3D game, behind sequel versions of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. So there's a chance that Pokemon Legends ZA is actually going to be like the worst selling 3D Pokemon games. If not, it's going to be like the second worst compared to Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Yet everyone just has like so many things to say about the game. Because again, like the weird toxicity squad, the toxicity grifting squad in Pokemon has gotten like so much brain rot. That's just like the terminally online hyper culture that we're in right now. So I've just been exposed to so much discussion I want to make videos about just through the timeline and algorithm. And I think that's a big thing. Like, the algorithm has changed a lot, and a lot of people are complaining about it, but a lot of people are also not complaining about it. It's like, whatever happened, it's like the opposite. That I wasn't a big fan of my algorithm until the change happened a couple weeks ago, and now I'm like, what's everyone complaining about? My timeline is giving me what I want to see, even if it's things I disagree with. So, and then people are like, oh, my algorithm is perfect, and now it's trash. So they did like some weird inversing of the algorithm, and that's kind of getting back together. But because I actually live YouTube and I live algorithms, I'm not an idiot, so I understand how social media works. I've actually been able to craft and curate the algorithm however I want it, whenever I want it. When it's Pokemon Worlds, I actually go into search and I just search up like VGC and Worlds and Nationals and Regionals and stuff, so that way I can find all the cheaters when they just pop into the timeline for me. But then we just get into crazy grifting. So here's how I rank every Switch era Pokemon game in terms of shiny hunting. I never appreciated you when I had the chance. What? We just lie now. Everyone is just lying for attention, and I've been calling this out, making like the Pokemon community so awful for over a decade now. Like, the entire time I've been in it. Oh, Smogon isn't toxic or filled with bullies. They're just trying to play their own game and they don't bother anyone. No, that's stupid. All the fake leaks that really kicked off with like Tyranitar Tube and stuff were like deliberately taking garbage posts and then clickbaiting them only for money, not for discussion, not for anything else. A-Drive took that to the next level despite actually calling out Tyranitar Tube, which is where just like every other Poketuber is evil and fake. They do not love Pokemon. They do not care about Pokemon. They do not give a shit about their audience. They only care about how much money they can extract from children through ad revenue or donations. So now it's like we just go into more rage. Like, this is actual rage bait. And I think that's what everyone... Like, rage baiting has been so abused and misused. Again, going back to this post. Whenever you see rage bait being used, 95% of the time, it's a fact I disagree with and don't want to engage with in good faith. But like, this is when you can see it's like an actual blatant lie where it's impossible for anyone to have this. Like, this is actual rage bait. There's nothing to appreciate with Pokemon Sword and Shield because no overworld shinies, which is a downgrade from Pokemon Let's Go, and the wild encounter method still seems to be bugged or misinterpreted or was just horrible to begin with. And then it's full odds den shiny hunting, so really it's only Masuda method and very limited chain fishing. There's nothing to appreciate. And also, like, when I had the chance, bro, just go back and play Pokemon Sword and Shield. It's one step into Pokemon Home. There's, like, no separation as well. Legends Arceus being pretty fun. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee being pretty fun. This is also just brain rot, where it's like, oh, default Pokemon Let's Go bad. Even though that's just stupid. And again, just fake, non-fan behavior. Not very good. Brilliant Diamond, Shine, Pearl. I wish that they actually had, like, overworld shiny Pokemon in the underground. I didn't really like the statues and how you got like temporary shiny buffs and stuff. So yeah, like, could have been better. I didn't really get into the radar stuff as well. And then I don't know what Sun is doing down here. Is this like supposed to be bad even though it's actually like the best shiny hunting and the easiest we've seen? And Let's Go was just awesome. Let's Go, you had to like craft and curate your shiny hunt for almost each individual species, or at least each individual route had a more optimal way of shiny hunting, whether like you leave the area and come back, or you actually do the straight up catching method. There was the whole lore behind that where it's like, oh, it's the next spawn that gets like crazy boosted shiny odds, And then the catch combo is just the greatest feature ever implemented in Pokemon. But also sometimes, like, you just run around and ride on a Pokemon and fly over terrain and stuff and come back, and that's how you get to spawn more shiny Pokemon. The lore itself, just like, I can buy +1 shiny forever. I don't have to make a stupid sandwich and stuff and remove myself from the gameplay loop. So, like, yeah, again, just... Actually, this could have been its own video. This might still be its own video. Best... Like, yeah, every Pokemon game ranked for shiny hunting. Ooh, that'll be sick. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.